I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are here for a special meeting, a public hearing on municipal ballot question regarding our schools joining a regional service center. I believe Mr. Webster wanted to give us a quick one too. Wherever you like.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the city councilors. Just to share a little bit, the question that will be before voters on June 12th is as follows. Do you approve Lewiston Public Schools joining a regional service center with other area school districts in order to improve educational efficiencies and preserve state subsidy, as set forth in an application to be approved by the Commissioner of the Maine Department of Education? Right now, there are 4 school districts considering this question. It's already gone to the public in 2 districts, MSAD 52 Levitt and RSU 16 Poland. It'll go to Auburn and Lewiston voters on June 12th. A regional service center is a way that school districts can work together to improve efficiencies. They're established in new legislation, and this vote is in accordance with that new legislation. The Maine legislature wanted to encourage participation, and they're providing participating school districts an additional $46 per student for this year for districts that join, and another $94 per student in the following year. In Lewiston's case, that amounts this year or this coming year to $192,000. It'll be about double that in the following year. If Lewiston voters approve, we will participate. And we will also be able to receive an additional $97,000 that will go to the regional center and share in that with the other participating districts. Some of the programs that might be considered are the joint purchasing of nutritional services, substitute teaching software that we all share, weather services. Rather than 2 districts paying for separate weather services, let's do it all as one program. So those are just some examples. If the educational subsidy, if the referendum fails, then our educational subsidy will be reduced by $192,000. It will not participate any further in the regional efforts going forward. On May 7th, the Lewiston School Committee approved the following resolution with a stipulation, or approved entering into the Regional Service Center with a stipulation that Lewiston Public Schools will not continue membership beyond the first year should the agreement not be amended to place a Lewiston School Committee member on the Regional Service Center Board. As the agreement cannot be amended until it's been actually activated, it does right now set the superintendents as the board, but superintendents also have the authority to designate a designee, and I have already on record as designating school committee member Tina Hutchison to represent Lewiston on what will be called, if approved, the Great Falls Regional Service Center Board of Directors. And the last comment I'll mention is that our intent is to only participate in things that will save money, and secondly, that this in no way infringes on any actions that the Lewiston Public Schools might take or the school committee might decide. We remain an independent entity, but this is a mechanism for us to share services. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Might want to stay there just in case anyone has any questions for Mr. Webster. I think you're good.
Thank you.
Comments in general? Outstanding. Okay.
Tina Hutchinson, and I represent Ward 7 on the Lewiston School Committee. I originally voted against the Regional Service Center opportunity for 2 reasons. First, as a new board, I felt we did not have all the information we needed to make an informed decision. While the previous board had received a presentation, this board had not. Secondly, this was presented to us as a way to take on the 3 to 5-year-olds currently served by Child Development Services and was tied to a FEDIS grant. I'm a firm believer that we should not start new programs while there is so much work to do around what we are already doing. All 4 districts involved in the Regional Service Center have refused the FEDIS grant and agreed not to create a program around 3 to 5-year-olds currently covered under CDS. I took the time to do some research and speak with Mary Payne of the Maine Department of Education. I learned that we could use this opportunity to improve programs or save money within areas we already have. One area of interest is our already self-sufficient nutrition program. Our nutrition director has spoken of the opportunity to increase our purchasing ability by combining with other districts. Another area of interest for me is around the substitute teachers. We all know that there have been a shortage of teachers, ed techs, and substitute teachers across the state. Lewiston tried outsourcing substitute teachers to Kelly Services and has taken this back in-house this year. The regional service opportunity will allow us to work with other districts to possibly think outside the box to fill substitute teacher positions. As a school committee, we were also concerned with only the 4 superintendents serving on the board of directors. We passed a motion that requires a member of the Lewiston School Committee to serve on this board. Other districts may also decide to follow our lead on this. Until such time as the contract can be amended, Superintendent Webster has named me as his designee to the board of directors. Lewiston's interest will be protected, while at the same time allowing us to receive additional funds that could help reduce the mill rate during future budgets or allow us to improve safety features in our schools. I would urge the community to support this regional service opportunity and trust that our elected school committee is doing what they think is in the best interest of our schools and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Anyone else from public or the school department? Any final comments from council? Council Penn.
It's more just a question. I was sitting here debating about whether or not I wanted to speak out against it, or, well, speak about it, as I've been vocal about the school budget and whatnot. But it's been referenced a couple times now that we'll take money, free money, but we'll also retain our ability to guide and direct ourselves. I don't see how that's possible. Normally, whenever you're given money to do something, it's always under the auspice of being provided directions to do that. So if we're joining, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, a regional service center with 4 other schools, and we're receiving money to do that, it seems to me that we'll lose a little bit of our ability to govern ourselves. And I may be wrong. I mean, we don't have the paperwork that shows how this is set up, how it's run, and who determines how things are run by that. But I find it hard to believe that if we're taking state money that they don't want a hand in that, and it's pretty universal that we all agreed a couple months ago that the state is the hardest thing in what is allowing us to do the right things for our students. So that's my comment, but thank you.
What was that?
Thank you. If I could just provide a little more information that the council may find helpful. Many people were confused when this law was passed, and I'm not saying that I or anyone in this room would have designed the law as it is. What they did was they reduced the subsidy in the formula for administration and moved it over to be an incentive for districts to join these regional service centers. So one could look at it as a penalty because we did get it in prior years, or one could look at it as an incentive. And the state has chosen to market this as an incentive. The use of the additional subsidy is only dependent on actually having joined a center. And the state, in its wisdom, felt that creating this incentive would be appropriate. What will be impacted by what a service center does is the additional 97,000 that are going to service centers this year. Service centers that don't fully utilize that will not get as much the following year. So that one is indeed tied to what the service center would do. And our intent, if we do move forward, is to spend that 97 in a way that benefits the local districts at no cost to taxpayers. This legislation could change. It's not ideal. But right now, the additional subsidy or the penalty, if you don't participate, as some are calling it, is completely independent other than the fact they want you to be part of the center.
So I have a question, Bill. I understand the vote wasn't unanimous. It was fairly close. Could you kind of give a brief, what were the concerns on the school board members who voted against the resolution?
Right, and I'll say a few words, but Tina Hutchinson might be even a better position than I to answer that question. The vote was 6-3. Originally, it had been voted down on a 4-3 vote. There weren't, all 9 members were not in attendance. I think the issue of the school committee not being explicitly represented on the board was one concern that people had. I think that part of it was very much not wanting us to get involved in the CDS grant, which has since been changed. And I think that, you know, I think there's been some feeling on the part of some that Lewiston voters, in considering the vote rather to consolidate with Auburn, voted against that and viewed this perhaps in that same vein as that we do not want to do any type of regionalization. That's why I did think it was important to note that other than the activities that we want to get involved with, Lewiston Public Schools will forever remain independent. But do you have any other that you?
I think you nailed it.
Okay.
I think
All right.
one other concern that I remember being brought up was the ability to change this agreement, because we were, at first at least, very confused about the steps. If it went to referenda and voters approved it, could we then exit from it at a later date? And it turns out that you can, and are we comfortable with that as a possibility? So kind of the mechanics of it were a question at one point, but I think with saying that a member of the school committee would be part of this board of directors really assuaged some of our worry about that.
Councilor Marcotte?
Mr. Webster, could you talk to the points of budgetary control? Now, how would the new governance unit come up with budgets? Would it be mandated on the 4 participating units? Would they have any say over the final budget individually and as a whole?
So the budget only covers funds that go directly from the state to the regional service center. That's the $97,000. There'll be no assessment or funds going from any of the participating school districts to the regional service center. And the vote in the present document, if all 4 districts enter, would require 3 out of the 4 to, for example, procure weather services. 3 out of 4 would have to agree to that. If one district did not approve, and I find that unlikely if 3 find that it would be appropriate, but if one did, then they just would not participate and not receive the benefit of the savings.
That's it.
Okay. Councilor West.
Superintendent Webster, do you plan to attend the meetings even though you're not the representative? Is it open to the public enough to have other people go? And it would seem that you would be interested in doing that. I understand your reasons for doing the other piece. I think it makes some sense, but are you?
So I will be attending the meeting, and at least until we get up and running, if it is approved by Lewiston voters, I will be the, quote, executive director. Doesn't mean much other than I'll call the meeting together. But I will very much be there, and these meetings would be open to the public. I will say this, I think that people will quickly find that this is pretty mundane work once we decide, and I think we've already talking about some of the services that school committee member Tina Hutchison mentioned, or what we may decide to initially get involved with. But nothing is formal until it goes into effect by what other districts are participating. And there will be a center. Whether it includes more than Poland and Levitt remains to be seen.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. All in favor?